Hello everyone, welcome to another amazing video. If you enjoy the content, I ask that you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the upcoming parts and new videos. Now, without further ado, let's get into today's video. Are you ready? Let's go.
In an airplane flying through the skies, the radio crackles and the crew members were asked to report the situation. If they heard the radio, they were supposed to respond. The young man in a black suit replied that the target had been destroyed. They quickly replied, as expected from a first-class mercenary. Beside him, in seats, there were many unconscious and bloodied people. Suddenly, he began to scream, asking what was happening. They responded to him, saying that he had worked hard for the organization all these years, but he knew too much. So let him take all these secrets to the grave. At that moment, the plane started to plummet, and many flashes of fire swept through the cabin, followed by a brilliant explosion. A moment later, Lin Yuan woke up in an unknown place, completely frightened. He clutched his chest and looked around, wondering where he was and if he hadn't died in the explosion. He grabbed his head and realized that something seemed to have damaged his brain. He bowed to the ground, still holding his head. 1,000 years ago, when the red moon of blood shone in the sky, spatial fissures opened everywhere, and the era of monsters began across the world. Hordes of monsters started ruthlessly destroying everything they saw. Human weapons were useless in the fight against these monsters. After 10 years, only 100 million people remained on the planet, and humanity was on the brink of complete extinction. But, in a moment of profound despair, the hope of salvation emerged. The master of spiritual beasts. Gradually, many people received their spirits, and each generation of soul beast lords inherited and developed their abilities. Humanity successfully created a new civilization that could resist the monsters. People had hope again, but each awakened beast has its own rank, from the lowest rank to SSS rank. And he, Lin Yuan, his beast soul is of the lowest rank. He has no family or friends, must rely on the beast soul to establish himself, but he is mercilessly mocked that he is just a low-rank beast soul. He is so weak, how does he still have the courage to come to school? They humiliate him whenever they want. He is just a piece of trash thrown away by the world. A group of rough people beats him on the street and shouts at him not to approach Sumu, or they will beat him to death. Lin Yuan scratches the back of his head and thinks, so that means he is moved. God took pity on him because he was brutally murdered in his previous life. Then he saw in front of him a person similar to him. This clone asked if he had also been abandoned. Lin Yuan looks at all of this suspiciously and realizes that it's terrible because he can't move his body. The clone told him that if that's the case, then leave this cruel world with him. Lin Yuan asked if he didn't want revenge. The clone replied that he was dead and wouldn't have a way to seek revenge, and that Lin Yuan is just a pathetic kid who took over his body. He responded with a threatening look that pathetic doesn't mean weak, because they should just accept defeat and let the world decide their fate, as they can't change it, and choose their own path. The clone asked if it was necessary to keep living only to die after another betrayal and if that wasn't painful. Lin Yuan shouted that it hurts not being able to choose. But now he wants to live by his own rules. The clone replied, touching his hair, that it all sounds great, but if he continues to live in his trashy body, sooner or later he'll end up like him. He replied that if he doesn't try, he'll never know. He will prove that even trash can rise to the top and show the world that his destiny is in his hands. The clone told him that he was strange and wondered if he would die again. The clone said it was good he keep his word and seek revenge for him, and disappeared into the air. From that day on, he called himself Lin Yuan. He suddenly realized that he could move, and told himself not to worry. He would definitely keep his promise. But how could he strengthen himself? The hierarchy of this world's law is that owners of low-rank beast souls only do low-paying jobs, barely managing to survive. Of course, in extreme cases, he can return to his previous job, becoming an assassin again. The system informs that the beast has awakened and mastered the beast evolution system, after which all the characteristics of the black lizard beast appeared. Lin Yuan saw the system window in front of him and wondered what it was. Long greeted him and said that from now on, he would accompany and observe his growth. He asked again if this is his beast. Long replied yes. Now they are partners whose bond is built on trust. They will definitely get along well with each other. Lin Yuan quickly got up and walked in the other direction, causing Long to ask where he was going and if he wasn't curious about how he could help him. He replied that he would definitely ask when the time comes, but now he had an important thing to do. Long said again that if he needed help, just ask. Meanwhile, a girl named Sumu was walking in the middle of a narrow street, and someone stopped her and told her not to run away anymore. She asked this man what he needed. The guy brought her a bouquet of roses and invited her on a date. She told him he was daydreaming. Did he really think she would be interested in tyrants? He replied that he knew she had an S-rank beast, but she had awakened it recently. He had specially found some B-rank beast soul masters. The guy asked, did she think he couldn't get what he wanted? She shouted at him furiously. He told her that he had also beaten that trash. Sumu shouted at him and asked what he did to Lin Yuan. He replied that he was too arrogant and dared to cross his path. Now only the two of them were left, and she had no choice but to go out with him. At that moment, someone suddenly ran through all of his guards with incredible speed and approached him from behind. It was Lin Yuan, who grabbed him by the neck and began to strangle him. The guy realized it was him and shouted his name. Lin Yuan smiled and said, "So this is where he is." As soon as his guards realized what was happening, they jumped and started approaching Lin Yuan, but they didn't have time to do anything before Lin Yuan kicked the guy in the back and moved away from them. The guards tried to catch him, but in a moment, he was already far away from them. While the guards turned to him, the guy who took the blow fell face first on the ground, and many petals flew out of the bouquet. He became very angry, pointed his finger at Lin Yuan, and shouted to his guards to kill him. The men split up and started walking toward Lin Yuan with a threatening look and shouted, "Yes, we need to use transformations." At that moment, each guard transformed into a huge beast. Lin Yuan saw this and thought about the transformation, and they looked exactly like animals, and he wondered if he could do that too. Long replied that his beast was just a common lizard. Evolution points were granted by absorbing others and winning battles, thus obtaining chests with rewards. He said he didn't need to use the transformation to win. Long shouted in fear, asking if he wanted to expose himself to attack in a human body, saying he was crazy because he would be killed with just one attack. He replied that if he transformed, he would die even faster, remembering that in his past life, he was an assassin. At that moment, the man shouted to his guards, asking what they were waiting for. They should attack him. The guards, who had turned into monsters, began to approach him, growling loudly. Lin Yuan silently watched what was happening, and at that moment, a bright light shone in the space. The man watched everything with a treacherous expression on his face, saying that Lin Yuan was an idiot because he would be torn apart. After reaching this conclusion, he laughed, but suddenly a dense cloud of dust appeared in front of him, through which he noticed two shadows and became alert. Lin Yuan ran quickly and jumped on the shoulders of one of the monsters, wrapped his legs around the monster's neck, and began to twist its head, and after a moment, he succeeded, and the monster's blood spurted. He descended to the ground and the monster was completely destroyed. Sumu watched what was happening and was stunned to realize that he was able to defeat a B-rank beast with his own hands. He knelt down, thankful that his skills from his past life had not disappeared because this body was much weaker. Sumu continued to admire his strength. Long shouted to him, congratulating him on defeating a B-rank beast and receiving a black Iron chest. He asked with interest about the chest. A chest descended from the ski in front of him, and Long shouted that this chest could contain useful things like super equipment or points to level up skills. He yelled for the chest to open, and Long said it was a random skill book. He could obtain a random skill, whose level would range from rank E to rank A, with a 1% chance of getting an A-rank skill. He reached out to the system window, thinking that everything was fine as long as it wasn't a rank E skill. Suddenly, there was a gleam of light, and Long shouted in surprise. It was an A-rank skill, Daylight. Once the beast soul was activated, it would be able to emit white light capable of melting even steel, with a maximum temperature reaching 100,000 degrees. He was thrilled it was an A-rank skill, and Long said he was really lucky. It was amazing. Maybe they should buy a lottery ticket. Meanwhile, Lin Yuan pointed his finger at the man standing in shock with the three beasts still behind him, and he said that now was not the time to celebrate. The man pointed his finger at him and shouted, running behind his monsters, that these creatures should kill him, and he would give them 10 million. The animals were very eager for this victory, and suddenly, Sumu turned to Lin Yuan and offered to summon the beast and help him. He stopped her with his hand and said there was no need for that, asking her to go further away. At that moment, he thought she was one of the few who had been kind to him, and he would not allow her to be harmed. Suddenly, a huge monster appeared above him, creating a whirlwind around his body. He made several quick movements and dodged all the approaching attacks, after which he jumped on the beast's head and with a quick hand movement, destroyed the creature, turning its head again. After such sudden movements, he jumped away from the monster, and this creature was thrown straight into the wall and completely destroyed. Long cheered, shouting that this was a victory, and another chest was obtained. Lin Yuan smiled and took a defensive position, thinking they shouldn't assume he was the same guy from the past. After these thoughts, he quickly ran towards the remaining monsters, both shouting at the same time, "God, he's doing it so fast!" With just one movement, he ripped off the heads of the monsters and destroyed them. The man raised his hands and shouted that this simply couldn't be. He begged to let him go because he was wrong. Lin Yuan's eyes gleamed with intense light, and he said with a threatening expression that it was already too late. The man was very scared by this response and stood stunned, his body covered in cold sweat from fear. Sumu, who was still behind him, looked at him and thought he was a very strong person. He looked the other way and said, holding the backpack in his hands, that they were already leaving. She replied, looking at the broken-headed bully, "Okay." She thought it seemed that he wouldn't bother her anymore. She felt embarrassed for being an S-rank beast soul master and not protecting herself, but Lin Yuan saved her, and she didn't even imagine he was so strong. He was surprised by her look and asked what was wrong, if he had something on his face, because she was looking at him that way. She spoke with a slight fear. "No." After what happened, she tried to say in a trembling voice that she wanted to thank him and ask him to forgive her for dragging him into all this. He replied that it was normal because they were classmates and should help each other. She told him she thought they were friends. He asked her what was wrong. She smiled and answered with embarrassment, "Nothing. But it's already late." She had to go home and said they would see each other at school tomorrow. At that moment, she wondered in her mind what was wrong with her. Long spoke to Lin Yuan, saying he was very lucky. Lin Yuan lowered his gaze and asked him not to say such nonsense. She is one of the friends of the original owner of the body, and if she now belonged to him, then of course he needed to protect her. "Okay, now it's time to talk about their case," said Lin Yuan with a trembling voice. Lin Yuan pondered, as expected of a former assassin. His look and tone were quite intimidating. He arrived at Lin Yuan's house, entered, and shouted, activating the beast soul, after which his body shone with a bright yellow color. Long closed his mouth in surprise when he saw Lin Yuan transform into a beast, and said that in the world of monsters, he would only serve as a snack. He thought it wasn't surprising that his best beast soul was called trash. Long asked if he needed his advice. Lin Yuan shouted at him that he could go ahead and say it. Long retorted that he could absorb and earn enhancement points and use them to strengthen himself. He had just received the points from the chest. Lin Yuan asked again what he meant by absorption. Long told him to eat and pointed his claw towards the refrigerator. Lin Yuan looked at him confused, and Long continued to say that he needed to eat. Beast souls were like ordinary animals, and first, he needed to consume a lot of protein. He also needed to remember to stay in shape and eat raw meat. Lin Yuan looked silently at the raw chicken and didn't approach the table. Long got a little upset and asked him to eat quickly, then he would strengthen immediately. Lin Yuan thought that yes, he would do it to level up. He grabbed the raw chicken by the throat and took a bite of the meat. Long told him after a moment that he had successfully consumed the fresh chicken meat. Lin Yuan was satisfied with the food he had eaten and rubbed his stomach. 5 enhancement points were received. Lin Yuan asked to use them to grow, and Long told him okay. Lin Yuan continued lying on the floor, and suddenly he stood up and shouted that he had eaten without blinking, and he needed more meat, saying there would be a meat feast that night. Long said he approved of that. The next day, as a result of absorbing 100 wild rabbits, His characteristics increased, and now his beast was much larger, and he thought not only the level but also the talent would increase. He arrived at school, sat at his desk, and, spinning a pencil in his hand, thought that although he was no longer so insignificant, it wasn't enough because he needs to get more points, and when he becomes even larger, he will need to find a secluded place, not to attract attention. He was reborn and will rise to the top of this world. Suddenly, his classmates approached him and shouted something with a threatening look on their faces. He looked at one of them and wondered if Feng, this bully, often bothers Lin Yuan and Jiang. He wondered why they always act like idiots. It's simple. Among them is Wu Mo Xuan, the master of one of the S-rank beast souls in the school. Feng continued to shout, calling him trash, asking how much longer he should repeat, that he should go faster and not make them wait. The other guy shouted that he should feel honored just by the fact that they allowed him to do something for them. The guy asked if he understood, calling him an idiot. Lin Yuan shouted back at them to leave him alone and broke the pencil in his hand in anger. Feng pointed his finger at him and shouted, asking what he was saying. Lin Yuan asked calmly if he didn't understand the human language. Wu Moxuan approached it and said that the weakest A-rank beast soul was so bold today. He could easily end his lizard, so he shouldn't show off. Lin Yuan looked silently at him with a threatening look, and he continued to say that trash should stay in the trash. It's a shame there's such a weak beast soul like him in their school. If he were in his place, he would have died in the ditch. Lin Yuan replied that, unfortunately, he planned to live comfortably. Wu Moxuan told him threateningly and loudly, leaning over his desk, that he would make him change his mind. Lin Yuan asked him to try, with a smile on his face. At that moment, the teacher entered and asked the students to take their seats. It was the class teacher named Zhang Yue. Wu Moxuan saw her and told him that he was lucky today, but he wouldn't be lucky every day. Long flew to Lin Yuan and said loudly that this guy is so arrogant, but he remains so calm. Lin Yuan replied that he is an S-rank beast soul, and it's natural for him to be arrogant, but sooner or later, he will be defeated. Long thought. He said such ruthless words with such a calm tone, it seems he's becoming like a master. Zhang Yue said that she would now distribute the school's cultivation resources to them, called beast soul crystals. The boys listened attentively to the teacher, and Lin Yuan wondered what that was. Long replied that beast soul crystals are the blood and flesh transformed from a monster after death, usually divided into high, medium, low, and worst ranks, containing enormous energy suitable for absorbing beast souls, and they can also significantly enhance one's abilities in the world of masters. Such beast soul crystals are equivalent to the existing currency. The higher the rank of the crystal, the higher the price, with even low-rank crystals costing $1,000. Lin Yuan responded that it was indeed a good thing. Zhang Yue announced loudly that the school distributed the beast soul crystals according to the rank of their awakened beast souls. This was done to show how cruel the world of beast soul masters is, where everything is based solely on strength. The strong are at the top, and the weak are eliminated. Survival of the fittest is the highest justice in the world of beast soul masters. Wu Moxuan, whose awakened beast soul is the S-rank skeleton king, received 10 high-rank beast soul crystals. Wu Moxuan stood up and stated that he is the master of one of the 2 S-rank beast souls in the school, the other is Sumu. Before them, there was a high school student who awakened the soul of an S-rank golden sun crow beast, and now he is the strongest lord of the 9 stars. Wu Moxuan would definitely become just as strong. Zhang Yue approached him and said that, although he had risen so high, he shouldn't relax with his talent. If he develops gradually, he could become the beast soul master. Wu Moxuan replied, thanking her, and assured her that he wouldn't disappoint. She then turned to Jiang, whose awakened soul is an A-rank giant stone beetle, and awarded him 5 medium-rank beast soul crystals. Li Feng, with a B-rank hurricane demon wolf soul, received 5 low-rank beast soul crystals. Lin Yuan, with an E-rank lizard beast soul, received 5 of the worst-rank beast soul crystals. Wu Moxuan decided to ask aloud if, with an E-rank beast soul, Lin Yuan intended to break the school record with such a useless beast soul. He didn't think Lin Yuan would become a master. It's better to become an ordinary worker and spare himself the shame. He and a group of guys humiliated him and laughed loudly. Lin Yuan approached the teacher and thanked her for the crystals he received, and she asked him to work harder. Wu Moxuan asked again with a smile. If the worst rank beast soul crystal was worth 1,000 coins, could he buy a bag with radiation inside? It's not suitable for cultivating a beast soul. He started shouting that he didn't want such trash, even if it were given, but who cares? At this moment, Long whispered to Lin Yuan, in his ear, that lower-grade beast soul crystals are formed when monsters are destroyed by nuclear weapons, and their flesh and blood are contaminated by nuclear radiation after death. But they contain a huge amount of energy that his devouring ability can absorb. This is a great thing for him. He listened attentively to Long's statements and pondered that this is how it works. Zhang Yue said it was okay. She would give him a high-rank beast soul crystal herself. He smiled and thanked her for that, but asked if he could request to exchange the high-rank crystal for a low-rank one. She shouted at him angrily, asking if he could hear what she was saying. She knows he's eager to increase the beast soul's power, but she can't feed it countless extremely harmful crystals. He thanked her again and said that, in that case, he would accept it. He sat in his place with a high-rank beast soul crystal. Wu Moxuan looked at him, thinking how Lin Yuan's talent was insignificant, and how could Professor Zhang Yue be so supportive of him? Long said once again, next to Lin Yuan's face, that the cost of a high-quality beast soul crystal is 10,000, while a low-quality one costs only 100 coins. He could exchange it for 100 low-quality beast soul crystals, but ordinary people don't carry so much money with them. He asked what he should do. Long suggested going to the Beast Soul Palace after school and exchanging it there. He replied that it was a good idea. At that moment, someone called his name. It was Sumu, who approached and asked with a smile on her face why he was there. She offered to go home together after school because she needed to tell him something. He said it was okay, and she continued to say that she had just heard from the principal that the guy who bothered her had left the school, which was great. At that moment, Li Feng, Wu Moxuan, and Jiang were surprised to see her approaching him. Li Feng asked in surprise if she wasn't the school beauty, Sumu, and wondered if they knew each other. Li Feng was also very surprised and exclaimed why she, the owner of the S-rank snow-niled fox beast soul, was hanging out with trash. They had a good conversation with Lin Yuan, and Wu Moxuan wondered why this Lin Yuan was so lucky. He has the weakest soul, and he became very irritated, questioning why everyone was so kind to him, from the teacher to Sumu. In the evening, after school, this group stopped Lin Yuan at the classroom exit. He asked with a smile what else they wanted from him. Wu Moxuan asked aloud what kind of love potion he gave to the teacher, and what means he used to get close to Sumu. Last time, he made that rich guy detain her, so he could intervene heroically and become the savior. As a result, that bully left the school and disappeared. Lin Yan asked with a threatening look if it was him. He realized that it was him who killed Lin Yuan. Wu Moxuan shouted that a beautiful girl like Sumu is suitable for a talent like him, not for useless weaklings, so why is she with him? Wu Moxuan said he should stay away from her, and asked if he understood that. Furthermore, Wu Moxuan told him that wherever they appear, he should run away with incredible speed. Lin Yuan thought that if a fight started at school, he would be punished. Teacher Zhang Yue is so kind to him, and he didn't want to make things difficult for her. After these thoughts, he approached Wu Moxuan's face and said that he couldn't and didn't want to do that. Wu Moxuan angrily shouted that for an arrogant person like him, he would do him a favor and open Sumu's eyes to the fact that he is just trash. But he doesn't want her to think that he is bullying the weak. Wu Monxuan proposed the following. If he passes the 7-day beast tests, he will eat a bag of lower-grade crystals, and if he loses, he will disappear from their sight. Lin Yuan replied that it was a serious bet and asked if he was sure he could handle it. Wu Moxuan said, why should he be afraid to bet with trash like him? Lin Yuan agreed with him with a smile and shook his hand in approval. After some time, he went out to meet Sumu, and she told him that he was late. He replied that something had happened, asking why she called him. She said with a smile that nothing important had really happened. She has an S-rank snow-niled fox beast soul, so the school gave her 10 high-quality crystals, and she wants to share half of them with him. He asked what exactly she wanted to share, and she replied crystals. What else would it be? She heard that he only received low-rank crystals because he has an E-rank beast soul. In that fight where he defended her, he was so resilient and not inferior to a B rank. As long as he trains hard, he will definitely be able to develop. She wonders how they could give him only low-quality soul crystals. He thanked her for the concern but said he couldn't accept her crystals. She retorted that she heard that the beast test difficulty is not easy. Even B-rank individuals can fail. She doesn't need all of them, and he should absorb them because it will help him a lot for the test. He asked if she wasn't afraid that by giving him half of the crystals, she wouldn't be able to pass the tests. She turned to him with a slight smile and told him not to underestimate her. She has an S-rank, nine-tailed snow fox beast soul. She can pass it even without soul crystals. He heard her and asked how that would be, although he couldn't tell her the reason. But if they could pass the tests, he would accept her proposal. She asked again if that was true, so they agreed. He replied that of course it was true, but if he failed the tests, then the game wouldn't be worth it, so he needed to prepare well. She replied that she agreed with that. He looked into her eyes and thought that on the day of the beast test, she would be shocked by his strength. Long told him that she cared a lot about him. They said their goodbyes and went their separate ways. Lin Yuan told Long in response that he was talking nonsense, to take him to the Beast Soul Palace. Long said how quickly his mood changed. Beast Soul Palace. They entered, and Long said that the palace is intended only for Beast Soul Masters. It is where the beast will be tested. He agreed and said that he first needed to exchange the crystals. He approached the manager and asked to exchange it for low-grade Beast Soul crystals. The man looked at him questioning this attitude and adjusted his glasses to carefully examine the crystals. He thought Lin Yuan had gone mad, trading a high-quality crystal for garbage. He slammed the bag of crystals on the table and said, 100 low-quality crystals. The commission fee is 500 coins. Lin Yuan replied that it was okay. Long asked him if he didn't think he was some kind of crazy. Lin Yuan responded, putting the bag on his shoulder, that there's a fine line between genius and madness. The man, still shocked, observed them closely. In an abandoned warehouse outside the city, a huge monster stood up and roared loudly. The system window reported, Beast Soul, Giant Black Lizard, Status, Growth Phase. Talent Evaluation, Rank B, Level 7-star Battle Beast, Height 3.1 m, Weight 540 kilos, Attack Methods, Bite, Claw Attack, Daylight Ability. Magical sparks appeared around the black lizard's body, and a small purple crystal appeared on its paw. Long was surprised by this, and shouted that it had successfully absorbed nuclear radiation, receiving 1,000 evolution points. Lin Yuan, reincarnated as a lizard, said that a chicken gave only 5 points, and by absorbing a low-quality soul crystal, he received 1,000. These 100 stones are equivalent to 100,000 evolution points. Each level is divided into 9 stars. His current level is a 7-star battle beast. There are ranks like Emperor, Beast Lord, Beast Master, Beast General, and War Beast. After absorbing all the crystals, in his opinion, there is nothing difficult in the beast test. A week later, at the Beast Soul Palace, many people were communicating and discussing urgent matters. A guy said he was so nervous. He absorbed all the soul crystals issued by the school and only had a 4-star battle beast, unsure if he could pass the test. Another guy told him it was terrible. He already had a 4-star beast, which is at least a rank B, while his was rank D, barely reaching 2 stars. This year there are 2 S-rank individuals in their school, the Skeleton King Reptile Wumo Xuan and the 9-tailed Snow Fox Sumu. He didn't even know what their level was. The other guy feared that only they could enter the Yanjing Beast University or the City Beast University. Wu Munxian shouted and reached out towards Lin Yuan, saying that the soul crystal Professor Zhang Yue gave him helped his pathetic lizard advance to the 1st level of martial beast. Lin Yuan didn't pay attention to his questions and continued on his own. Suddenly, Lin Yuan turned around and decided to ask him if he was ready for this. Wu Mo Xuan crossed his arms and continued talking that his beast soul had already reached the level of an 8-star martial beast. He would easily pass the test. Lin Yuan replied that he didn't ask that. He asked if he was willing to eat a bag of low-quality crystals. The people around were very surprised by the question and began to whisper to each other. Lin Yuan had gone mad. Wu Mo Xuan possesses an 8-star battle beast. Wu Mo Xuan and his group of threatening guys were irritated by his behavior. But suddenly, Professor Zhang Yue turned to the students and announced that the exam would begin soon. She asked them to bring their identification and ticket, entering the palace one by one. Many students were scared of the imminent events. Wu Mo Xuan pointed his fist at Lin Yuan and shouted to him to wait until the end of the test, as he would be finished. Lin Yuan responded emotionlessly that it was okay. In the Beast Soul Palace on the 3rd floor exam area, the man in the center of the exam area said, "Exam number 95821. Lin Yuan, please prepare for the exam." He approached the man and replied that he was there. The examiner asked him, carefully examining the documents in his hands, if he had awakened an E-rank beast soul. He replied yes. The man thought it was a pity that he probably wouldn't pass the exam and wished him good luck, giving him a pat on the shoulder. Lin Yuan thanked the professor for his support, then sat in the system chair, put on the helmet, and the system informed him that the combat simulation would begin shortly. The countdown from 5 to 1 began, and a moment later, his eyes opened, shining with intense light. He found himself in a barren desert and realized there seemed to be no terrain advantage he could exploit. He heard a loud noise, prompting him to look around, and in the distance, he noticed a monster approaching, making him very cautious. It was a desert wolf, a 3-star war beast, the opponent of the first phase of the beast test. The desert wolf began to growl loudly and opened its mouth widely. Lin Yuan tried to dodge the sudden movements of this monster, wondering if it was really so weak. Long asked Lin Yuan if he wouldn't merge with the beast soul. He replied, while observing the monster being attacked, that after being attacked by low-level beasts, it wasn't necessary. Seizing this opportunity, he would warm up his muscles well. Suddenly, there were several monsters behind him. The professor was very surprised to watch what was happening and wondered if this guy had passed the first level. Suddenly, Lin Yuan began to attack new monsters with his own hands, twisting the necks of these creatures. The professor shouted for the others to look. Another man was surprised by his reaction and asked what was happening. The professor wondered what was happening. Lin Yuan had killed a 3-star desert wolf without using the power of a beast soul. He hadn't even merged with the beast soul yet. Everyone was surprised by his talent. He destroyed the last monster and the blood of this creature was spilled. He made a decisive move and finally finished off this creature. The teachers started shouting and asking how he managed to do that. He was just a monster, defeating 3 3-star desert wolves without merging with a beast soul, an unprecedented event. The professor grabbed his head and shouted to the other man, so he thinks Lin Yuan is cheating after all. The purpose of the exam was to test the strength of the beast soul, and he didn't even take advantage of it. The other professor said with a serious expression that this is indeed against the rules, but it's not cheating. They will see if he passes the 3rd level. If not, he will fail the beast test. The professor replied that it's true. The first 2 levels are designed for candidates to adapt to the pace of real combat. The 3rd is the key. It's almost impossible to pass the 3rd level without resorting to the power of the beast soul, even with the strength he is showing now. It's a pity that his beast soul talent assessment is only rank E, but if his beast soul were stronger, his future would be promising. Long asked him to save his strength. This is just an appetizer. The real test is yet to come. He was among the monsters attacking each other, and suddenly, an incredibly huge monster, with bright red eyes, appeared before him and looked at him threateningly. Long said that this is the 6-star king of the desert wolves. Lin Yuan's mouth opened in shock, and cold sweat broke out on his face. He spoke with a serious expression that defeating a beast of this level requires a high level of beast soul talent. No wonder they say that only candidates with rank A and above beast souls can pass the beast tests in the first year of training. It's time to show his true strength, he spoke aloud, merging with the beast soul. Long told him that he finally did it. At that moment, his whole body lit up in blue, and the system window showed him all the characteristics of the enormous black lizard he had transformed into. After a moment, Long shouted with joy that he had reached a higher level. This is a new beginning. He opened his huge mouth and roared loudly at the monster. Suddenly, one of the teachers watching what was happening became pensive and wondered what happened to the weak animal soul of the lizard. even something as small as the ability to turn into a Tyrannosaurus. The professor shouted and asked if he made a mistake during the inspection, and asked if he really was rank E. Another professor shouted, showing him the documents. He's not blind if he doesn't believe it, then he should check for himself. The registration card shows exactly rank E. The professor asked again, shouting in perplexity, "Then what's happening? A giant beast like this should be at least a general rank. This is incredible. Only a few days have passed since the awakening of the beast soul, and he already has a general rank beast soul, which means his talent is not inferior to S rank. In fact, it's SS or SSS." The enormous lizard stood before the small, frightened and defenseless monster. He was able to reach this level. The monster bared its teeth and leaped high, growling loudly. The lizard's body continued to shine with magical light. Lin Yuan swung his paw and effortlessly destroyed his opponent. The teachers were incredibly shocked and exclaimed that he killed the 6-star beast in a second. One of them ordered the other to stay there and continue recording the details while he reported the situation to the chief examiner. The professor urged him to hurry. Another professor, who ran to report what was happening, smiled and thought that finally, an extraordinary talent had appeared in their city. Many wolves began to approach Lin Yuan, and he wondered if more wolves had appeared. The difficulty level of the exam was a bit disappointing for him. Long flew closer to him and shouted that the first 3 levels are necessary to achieve a passing score. He should continue to fight to get a higher score, as many famous universities recruit beast soul masters based on the beast test results. 6-star desert wolf and 10 3-star wolves. This level seems to test the combat ability of the soul masters. He roared loudly and realized that for him, this was child's play. The rest of the wolves approached him, but at that moment he made a sudden move and the blood of the monsters spilled. After that, there was a bright flash of light, and one of the wolves was destroyed and heavily bloodied. Lin Yuan continued to destroy one monster after another, and after some time, he had defeated all the monsters. After defeating them all, he wondered how many more levels there were. Meanwhile, Chief Examiner Xiuan asked why he was called and why the rush. He asked if they didn't know that proctors are not allowed to leave the examination area without authorization. The professor told him, Mr. Zhao Shan, that a candidate had extraordinary indicators, so he wanted him to look personally. Zhao Shan asked, "What did he say? Is something out of the ordinary?" The examiner continued to explain that his talent assessment did not match the strength he demonstrated. Zhao Shan replied that there was nothing unusual about that. Many people surpass their limits during real combat. A rank B can outperform the performance of a rank A. He is exaggerating too much. The examiner shouted back that his talent was rank E. Zhao Shan turned abruptly to him and asked again, shouting, "How dare he participate in the beast test with such low talent? This guy is bold, and he was only summoned because the student awakened a rank E beast soul." The examiner shouted back, "Mr. Zhao Shan, first, you need to look at his fight and then draw conclusions." He went to the computer to show everything that was happening in the examination area. Zhao Shan said that it couldn't be that a rank E beast soul master was able to pass the tests. At this moment, around the lizard's body, there was only the remaining dust from the fierce battle. Zhao Shan saw this and became very cautious. After seeing it, he shouted and asked if they were sure he is rank E. Another examiner asked, so now he understands why they called him here. He thinks Lin Yuan has the strength of at least a beast general. Many monsters formed around him again. Now he is on the 10th level of the test. The 10th level is the last level, and it's very difficult since each of the 10 wolves has the strength of a 7-star war beast. It was asked again, so does this mean that if he can pass level 10, it will be proof that he has the power of a beast general? Zhao Shan replied, yes, and furthermore, the top universities will start fighting for him without exception. Everyone who managed to pass the 10 levels of the test is a genius at least. This young man's future is that of a beast soul master of lord rank, maybe even an emperor rank beast soul master. The examiners were very surprised by this information and opened their mouths. Zhao Shan spoke. Okay, it's too early to talk about this. It remains to be seen if he can pass this level. At this moment, Lin Yuan was thinking that he believed the final stage of skill assessment would be the boss of the monsters, but here, there were only 10 desert wolf kings. These creatures looked at him with a threatening gaze. Lin Yuan suddenly moved to attack these creatures, shouting that they are just trash. He pointed his claws at them and continued to shout, destroying one after another with incredible speed, saying that no matter how many there are, they are just a bunch of garbage. More and more wolves were heading towards him, but he destroyed them with agility and speed. These creatures couldn't bite his body, demonstrating a terrifying defense. The examiners realized that he was able to withstand the attacks of 7-star war beasts. Attack, defense, speed, and explosive power, all at a perfect level. The examiner said, "If this is truly a Ranky talent, then I can commit suicide." Everything around was filled with the blood of the deed monsters, and Lin Yuan looked into the distance, thinking, 6 more. He opened his mouth and the wolves became very cautious, seeing such a monster in front of them. Zhao Shan wondered, in fear, what kind of power this was. In this case, he created a bright burst of energy that illuminated the entire area and decided to get rid of them all at once. He created a bright beam aimed at the monsters and crushed everything in its path. After this, Lin Yuan roared loudly and lifted his head. The examiners were perplexed and didn't understand what kind of technique this was. They watched with fear what was happening in the examination field. Everything turned into dust, and a moment later, the system reported that candidate Lin Yuan successfully passed all stages of the beast test. Lin Yuan felt relieved that the beast trial was much easier than he expected. Since he passed the final level, it means he is guaranteed a good score. He wonders how many people will be surprised when the results are announced. After all, even Wumo Xuan with an S-rank talent definitely couldn't pass the beast test. He wants to take this opportunity to show all the universities that even an E-rank beast soul can have tremendous power. Long also thinks that the exam is over. Lin Yuan then removes his helmet. Next to him are 2 men, looking at him in perplexity. Lin Yuan's profile is displayed on the computer screen, indicating that he is male, 18 years old. His awakened animal soul is a black lizard. His talent rating corresponds to rank E, and his actual strength is equal to a 3-star beast general. This data was obtained from forces demonstrated in a real combat simulation, subject to some errors. The men look at him and think in horror. At 18 years old, less than 2 weeks after the awakening of the beast soul, he reached the rank of 3-star beast general, a simply terrifying power. Zhao Shan looks at Lin Yuan and, with a stern expression, congratulates him on passing all levels of the beast test. He asks if Lin Yuan knows what this means. Lin Yuan smiles happily and asks if it means he has a good score. One of the examiners happily explains that it means more than a good score. He demonstrated talent and strength, so the beast universities of Yanjing and Modu will surely compete for him. Lin Yuan replies that this is good and asks when the results will be published. The examiner replies that if nothing happens, the lists will be announced that afternoon. At that moment, one of the examiners thinks that usually others feel excitement or joy, but he is very calm. Lin Yuan exits the capsule, bows, and thanks everyone. Then he adds that if that's all, he will leave. General Zhou Shan calls Lin Yuan and asks him to wait. Lin Yuan asks in surprise if there is something else. Zhao Shan asks why his talent is only rank E, and if something went wrong during the awakening of his animal soul. If he has any problems, he can go to him, and he will help. But Lin Yuan explains that no. His beast soul was indeed weak during its awakening, so it was classified as rank E. General Zhao Shan was worried in vain, but almost immediately, one of the examiners turns to the chief examiner suspiciously and asks if he thinks this guy was telling the truth. He answers confusedly that it doesn't seem like he was lying, but was very surprised by his character. Zhao Shan observes Lin Yuan and notes that after achieving impressive results, he didn't seem arrogant, which is very commendable. In the future, another Beast Soul Master with immense power will appear. At this moment, near the Beast Soul Palace, numerous students were animatedly discussing the imminent exam. Sumu's voice suddenly rang out as she cheerfully shouted to Lin Yuan. She was near a tree, waving at him with all her might. When she ran up to Lin Yuan, he immediately asked how it went, if she passed the exam. Sumu exclaimed that, of course, she passed, and the grades were good. Lin Yuan asked if it was really so, how many levels she completed. Sumu replied with a smile. 9. Lin Yuan looked at her in surprise and observed that this was really good. He didn't expect her to complete 9 levels. It seems that her powers have increased more than he expected. She wanted to ask him about his evaluation, but she didn't know how, after all. People with rank E usually hardly pass the first level. Later, she will be very surprised. Lin Yuan then happily says that the exam is over. They don't need to think about grades anymore. He also invites her to dinner to celebrate her success. Sumu smiles and extends her hand, exclaiming that it's okay. Then she wants a big bowl of noodles. Lin Yuan asks in surprise if that's all, just a bowl of noodles. Sumu explains that she is so hungry that she will eat whatever he gives her. Then, Lin Yuan starts thinking that the restaurant is far away, and they will miss the announcement of the lists. Well, Sumu takes his hand, starts running, and says with a smile that, anyway, the results have already been determined, and what will be announced is just a ranking. Lin Yuan mentally agrees and thinks that, no matter what happens, no one can surpass his grades. Sumu keeps pulling his hand and shouts that they should go faster, she is hungry. Lin Yuan immediately responds that he understands. At 1 in the afternoon on the Beast Soul Palace Square among the crowd, someone shouts and demands that people get out of the way. Students are wondering who this guy is. It is Wu Mo Xuan, an S-rank Beast Soul Master, who completed 7 levels, the same result as the winner of the previous year. He is strong, and should be the main candidate this year. The talent of an S-rank Beast Soul is terrifying. With these results, he will be able to enter one of the best universities. Just at that moment, Wu Mo Xuan triumphantly thinks that an exceptional personality like him is attracting attention from all sides. He was preparing for this exam, and even asked his parents to buy an expensive pill to maximize the potential of the Beast Soul in a short period. Then, one of his friends asks why he hasn't seen Lin Yuan. Wu Mo Xuan confidently replies that it's not even worth asking, obviously. He was hiding somewhere, daring to challenge him with his level. Then the friend exclaims with a malicious smile that Lin Yuan is so funny. If he were in his place, he wouldn't dare say a word and would have buried himself in the ground long ago out of shame. Another friend sighs and also adds that he would like to watch this show, but Lin Yuan didn't even show up. He is a true coward. Suddenly, Wu Mo Xuan interrupts their conversation and says, okay, since he doesn't want to come out, then he will remain a coward for the rest of his life. He also thinks that Lin Yuan's escape is exactly what he wants, so he doesn't appear again. At this moment, Lin Yuan's voice is heard, turning to Sumu and saying, as he said, the restaurant was far away, but she wanted to eat there. She responds with a laugh that everything is fine. They are just in time, but she ate deliciously. Wu Mo Xuan turns around and sees them passing by. Sumu smiles happily while Lin Yuan says something to her. Wu Mo Xuan starts to get very irritated and thinks that Lin Yuan is an idiot. How dare he appear in front of him with Sumu? Wu Mo Xuan then approaches them and asks irritably, if this isn't Lin Yuan, he looks so calm. It seems that the test score is not bad. Lin Yuan replies briefly, yes, he is completely satisfied. One of Wu Mo Xuan's friends mockingly asks if he's happy with it, so modest. It must have been hard to pass the first level. Another friend also smiles maliciously. You can overcome the first level without any skill, and asks if there are people who couldn't. Those around who heard this began to laugh and say that they shouldn't shame Lin Yuan so much. It's great that a guy with an E rank had the courage to participate in the exam. Wu Mo Xuan leans towards him and, pointing a finger, reminds him that he hasn't forgotten about their bet, right? In response, Lin Yuan scratches his head and replies that he almost forgot, but since he remembered, Lin Yuan asks if he is ready to lose. Upon hearing this, Wu Mo Xuan starts to get very angry and exclaims, lose, how can he play around with someone like him? At this exact moment, the clock strikes exactly 2 o'clock, and people start shouting that the lists have been published, exam results announced, questions immediately arise. The lists have been announced, so first, Wu Mo Xuan immediately exclaims joyfully, he is this year's champion. He then starts reading the list and sees that Sumu is in second place, and her score is 9 levels passing the beast test. He looks at it in perplexity and wonders if he has the third place, Are there really 2 in front of him? He reads the list further and sees that he is in 3rd place. The beast test was passed. Wu Mo Xuan is even more surprised. Sumu is in 2nd place. She managed to complete level 9. He didn't expect her talent to be greater than his. No. If she completed 9 levels and is only in 2nd place, then what kind of monster is in 1st? Drops of sweat trickle down his face from excitement. In the grand announcement, it is revealed that Lin Yuan received a score equivalent to 10 levels of the beast test. Wu Mo Xuan can't believe it. Lin Yuan, how is this possible? How could he pass 10 levels with his E-rank beast soul? People in the crowd start wondering, who is Lin Yuan? He is amazing to complete 10 levels. There are only 10 of them in the exam, right? Yes, he is a true monster. He doesn't know what kind of beast soul Lin Yuan awakened, but its power has reached an incredible level, even surpassing Sumu and Wu Mo Xuan. She completed 9 levels, but unfortunately encountered a monster. The most embarrassing thing is that Wu Mo Xuan boasted more before the results were announced, but ended up only in 3rd place. Wu Mo Xuan grabs his head with his hands and is horrified. At this moment, Lin Yuan approaches him and reminds him with a smile that he said, Wu Mo Xuan lost. Isn't it time for him to fulfill the terms of the dispute? He then adds with a smile that he prefers to eat the dried inferior crystal pouches, with or without seasoning. Suddenly a crowd sees him and exclaims with joy, here he is, Lin Yuan, who took the 1st place. Sumu also looks at him and thinks that his rank is higher than hers. That's why when she said her results he wasn't surprised. But the question is, how did he do it? Wu Mo Xuan starts shouting frantically that this is impossible. How can an E-rank idiot get such a result? He cheated. A crowd hears this and chaos begins around. People ask, perplexed, isn't that Wu Mo Xuan? He thinks Lin Yuan cheated. Is this true or false? Is this possible during the exam? Number 1 deceived everyone. Isn't that Sumu? She's there too. Lin Yuan hears this and asks angrily if he cheated. Does Wu Mo Xuan really think he would do such a thing to win? But Wu Mo Xuan starts screaming back that Lin Yuan has an E-rank beast soul. How then did he pass the 10 levels of the beast test? People hear this and immediately start wondering, it's an E-rank beast soul, isn't it the weakest thing? How did he manage to complete 10 levels? He really cheated. This is a real combat simulation, and nothing from the outside world can be brought inside. Disappointment is hardly possible. Long appears next to Lin Yuan, looks around in surprise, sighs, and says that doubts have arisen. Lin Yuan then turns to Wu Mo Xuan and asks, who said that a beast soul of rank E couldn't pass the exam? It's not written anywhere in the reference books, right? However, Wu Mo Xuan continues to insist on his own opinion and shouts that Lin Yuan should not be complacent. He declares that he will file a petition with the Beast Soul Palace Court and expose the questionable methods Lin Yuan used. Lin Yuan inquires about the court, and Long explains that if candidates have doubts about the evaluation, they can go to the Beast Soul Palace Court. However, such meetings are rarely convened based on the assessments of others. Lin Yuan then turns to Wu Mo Xuan and resolutely says that he can do whatever he wants, but if it turns out he is not guilty, then Wu Mo Xuan will not forget to fulfill the terms of the dispute. Long also adds that an S-rank beast soul is not good at losing. Wu Mo Xuan responds by pointing his finger at Lin Yuan again and shouting, how dare he? Suddenly someone asks what all the noise is outside the palace. Then people see someone walking towards them. Above the person, a bear appears with its mouth wide open. People see it and exclaim, Examiner Zhao Shan. Long also notes their surprise. As expected from a master beast soul of Lord Rank, his suppression power is very powerful. Lin Yuan also sees this and thinks about it, a master beast soul of Lord Rank. People in the crowd begin to exclaim again, is this Chief Examiner Zhao Shan? It is said that his big and ferocious bear has already reached the level of a 7-star lord. He can't be among all the master beast souls of Lord Rank. He is quite strong, right? He is a talented master who decided to come here as an examiner. Zhao Shan approaches and threateningly asks if he heard that someone wants to go to court. Wu Mo Xuan approaches him, lowers his head, and replies that he wants to file a complaint because he believes that the evaluation of the student Lin Yuan is unfounded. He then turns around, points his finger at Lin Yuan, and exclaims that he awakened a beast soul of Lord Rank, but was able to pass 10 levels. This is not normal. In this regard, he would like to ask the Beast Soul Palace for a reasonable explanation. But Zhao Shan explains that, by chance, he was present at Lin Yuan's exam and watched everything that happened from start to finish. He found nothing unusual. Zhao Shan asks Wu Mo Xuan if he means to say that he helped Lin Yuan cheat. Wu Mo Xuan immediately tries to explain everything. Zhao Shan is the pride of Zhenhai. He wouldn't dare to doubt him. But the beast soul awakened by Lin Yuan was ranked as a talent of E rank. He thinks that everyone present is absolutely clear about what that means. Someone in the crowd also asks how he was able to complete 10 levels with such a soul. Zhao Shan continued, so he thinks that examiner Zhao Shan should at least release the video of candidate Lin Yuan.
If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and like the video. Thank you.